Know thyself. When I stepped into this world of self-discovery, I heard this statement, this suggestion, this imperative all the time. Know thyself. So what is this elusive self? Well, get ready. We're going to break it down for you today, eradicate this elusive self, and learn what is getting in the way of knowing thyself. Welcome back to the show. Raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness. We are honored to have internal family systems practitioner, Dr. Seth Kolpal, joining the show today. Dr. Seth is also the author of the book, Self-Led, Living a Connected Life with Yourself and with Others. Dr. Seth, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really nice to be with you.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. And from my end, I will say also welcome to you, Dr. Seth. We're going to kick our show off with our grounding practice. Let's just get into it. Let's go ahead and exhale together. And holding empty at the bottom. Nice, deep, slow breath in, filling in from the belly to the chest. And holding full at the top and releasing. And as you release that, go ahead and bring some movement into your body, wiggling your fingers, wiggling your toes. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. We're excited to get into this show. Thanks for tuning in, sharing the podcast. Thanks for helping us grow. Will, I'll turn it over to you to kick it off.
As I've stated many times already, I mean, to you guys as well as now the show, really excited to have you here, Dr. Seth, because we had Dr. Frank Anderson on, I don't know what it was, season 6 or something like that. I mean, and he was fantastic. Like we have a couple of microdoses with Frank, and it was great to hear his voice again. He's so clear and like, and this IFS is really, you could just hear it because of the clarity it brings. And so when we started doing the research for IFS and to onboard Dr. Frank and have really good insightful discussion with him, I felt like I really struck gold when we started learning about how the IFS system, which stands for Internal Family System, defines the self. It breaks it down in such a beautiful way. It actually has 13 ingredients, 8 C's and 5 P's. So Dr. Seth, please help us to understand what is this self and how these ingredients help us to understand who the hell we are.
Yeah. Okay. Happy to talk about it. Well, one thing I'll say is that no one has more self than anyone else. That inside of everybody, there's like this, I like to just call it light, or might be your soul. Some people who are spiritual might say it's connected to something higher than us. And the amount of access you have to self is how you notice different people. Some people, their parts are so activated, and we like to say, Dick Schwartz, I think, created this analogy that your self is the sun, your parts are like clouds. So for some people's system, it's like this really cloudy day where the parts are really covering up the sun. And for some reason, we don't know why, that the self doesn't force our parts away. We need their permission. And once we get to know our parts and have relationship with them, it's almost like they begin to trust that it's safe for them to give us enough space so our light can shine. So this model is really about being in relationship to our parts. And the wonderful thing about self, the energy of self-energy seems to carry, those qualities that you mentioned, the C's and the P's. So we have things like compassion, curiosity, clarity. I'm just looking because even Dick Schwartz doesn't remember all the C's. Connectedness. So for me, the C's is like the essence of what our parts need from us. And it's very similar to what you might have needed from your caregivers growing up. Like, what did you need from your parents or your caregivers or whoever raised you, right? To have someone who was curious about you, who really wanted to deeply understand your experience, not to impose something on you, but to know you, to have compassion for you, which is very different than empathy, where empathy is like, I feel what you feel because I've experienced it too. And I'm almost lost in my own feelings in that, which is helpful to gain compassion. But when we say, oh man, I felt that before, now let me let that, my experience step aside, I can say to you, wow, I really can feel for what you're feeling. Like I'm holding this presence for you and letting you know like how much I get, how much that hurts you. And like confidence and courage, these are ones I usually talk about a dial. Like if you think of all the C's is like a old receiver where like you're listening to the radio and you have all these dials around turning up the bass or the treble or whatever. Sometimes you just need to like turn up these qualities in ourselves. So like if you're going to have a hard conversation with somebody, we could have a part that comes in that's really strong and kind of pushes his way through or her way through or their way through. Or when we turn up the natural quality of courage, like we could be strong in our presence, but we're not blowing people away. We're not running over people, but we could say the thing that has to be said. And because it's in self-energy, we have these other qualities of compassion and curiosity. So for me, all of these qualities boil down to how do you do this with love? So how do I hold a boundary with somebody that needs a boundary, but in a loving way? And then there's like connectedness, that we feel each other. Thomas Hubel says this beautiful thing when he talks about being attuned to somebody. And attunement is really one of my passions. I call it exquisite attunement in my book, like with our parts and with other people. But Thomas Hubel says, it's like, I feel you and you feel me feeling you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And isn't that what we really needed growing up? Or isn't that what we need from our friends, from our partners? And then the P's are, in my experience, are about how, like these other qualities that keep us going to be with our parts and to be the kind of person we want to be.
I'm going to go down those P's really quick. I'm from your book you have here. So the 5 P's are presence, patience, perspective, persistence, and playfulness. And when I read all those, and I'm like, oh my God, all these wonderful things are inside of me. So, but yes. Yeah, so keep going. Thank you for
Yeah. So persistence to me is, persistence is one of my favorites because it's like, I'm not giving up on you. Mm-hmm. Right? Like this part that needs me. Or if I'm working with you, I could sense a part in you that needs you. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to push you, but I'm not going to give up until that part gets the love it needs from you. And I think people's systems feel that from like an IFS therapist or IFS practitioner if they're in this mode that I'm talking about. And it's kind of like when we remove all these, we call them burdens, like these beliefs that we've taken on. And sometimes we take on beliefs, even in the womb, like they call it epigenetics. These beliefs go on top of our epigenetic means, I think Peter Levine described it, that these beliefs are on top of our genes. They're not it's not our genetics. It's on top of, which means it can be removed.
Right. And that's also, we had Frank on and he was talking about legacy trauma. So it's just like this energy,
exactly
right? This energy that sits over top, or like a cloud over top of the brilliance that's already hardwired in our DNA. And it's just like, and we do work like this, and it takes time, takes practice. We can begin to elevate and lift above that fog.
Right. So if your culture tells you to stay small to be safe, which maybe certain cultures have had to go through in order to be safe, but now the world might be safer than it was. You might be born with this belief in you, I have to stay small. But then there's things that happen in your daily life that also create burdens or beliefs, like I'm bad, like I'm a bad person, or I'm not worthy of love because my parents aren't loving me the way I need. But when we help people remove those beliefs, what's left are these qualities. Like there's a natural playfulness underneath. There's like I have a lot of parts, like I'm working, no matter how good you are at this, even if you wrote a book about it, you still have parts.
Yeah.
So I'm working through how do I be patient with people when I really want something.
Yeah.
And I find that I have parts that have known, man, I could push and blow through and I'll get what I want. And then I look back and there's all these casualties.
Yeah, it's true.
So what I'm working on is like, how do I help that part relax and just be patient so that we can still get to where we go, but we're not damaging relationships. or we're not getting there and feeling like, why doesn't it feel good to get there? But when we have these natural qualities, and then you think about presence, like our parts are protecting us, keeping us safe. They're all about us. So they're either thinking about the future, or they're like stuck in the past, which means they're not in the present moment. But self is just sitting right there in that presence. So when you're interacting with parts, you can almost help them come to the present because you're already there. I guess I'll say self, in my opinion, like self is like the love energy of the universe. You might say, if you believe in God, it's like God's love. It's the earth's love. It's that kind of feeling that I think everybody has felt or touched. Hopefully, it's really sad when you meet somebody that hasn't.
I think it's something we're always aspiring towards. Like I read a while back, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, right? And he says at the end of the book, he says, we don't have to reach for spirit, right? And you can also translate that in this conversation as self. We don't have to reach for self. We don't have to reach for spirit. We need to peel everything else away. And that's what's so beautiful about the IFS system. It really helps you identify what is getting in the way. If you like, let's kind of dive into this incredible system, maybe a little bit of the history of it, and then kind of work with this what's over top of this brilliance that's already on the inside, and waiting to come out. But sometimes it just needs a little bit of love, a little bit of attention, a little bit of work in order to bring it forward.
Yeah. So you're hoping to hear about the history first?
Just a little bit, because I think it's interesting that this is only like 60 years new, which I find a little fascinating. Whereas a lot of the older psychology has been based on, Freud and, I don't know the other ones, all of them, but even like Carl Jung, I guess, is an older kind of philosophy. But if you want to just tap on that maybe a little bit, and then dive into the
And I think it might be, I wish I knew the exact year, but it's probably even less than that. It's probably like 30 or 40 years. But one thing I want to say is, I think Dick Schwartz will say this as well. He created a new model to interact with yourself this way that's very practical and very efficient.
Yes.
And very, I would say, deeply spiritual if you lean into it. But he didn't create this. It's been part of cultures around the world for centuries. So indigenous cultures, and even if you go back into as you read deeper into other people's beliefs and psychology models, you'll see mentions of parts. And Carl Jung kind of alluded to it with archetypes and all this kind of other stuff. So it's really not new. and sometimes, actually since 2020, we've had to really acknowledge to indigenous cultures that you're right. In some ways, we're acting like we created this when you've been doing this as a shaman forever. So I just want to acknowledge that this is something we've stumbled on as a universal truth that many cultures around the world have done. But I think Dick Schwartz made it accessible to the Western mind.
Yeah, it's almost like traveling through the hero's journey through psychology, because it's all in there again. And you got to, what's the essence of the hero, that can, and what you need to transcend as the hero, and it's really all in the self energy.
That's right. And what he did, he was a family therapist where you're really not looking internally, you're looking at the family system. And he was noticing that he was working with people with eating disorders and they weren't healing as fast as he hoped. And as he met with them individually and talked to them, just in conversation, they started alluding to these parts of themselves, like the part who eats, the part that feels shame, and then the part eats, and then the part gets angry and binges. And he's like, wow, people are just saying, you might have noticed that's just a natural part of your language. Part of me really wants dessert, but I know there's a part of me that's going to really regret it if I do. Or part of me wants to go to the movies, but I'm so tired. Another part of me just wants to go to bed. I mean, people just say it naturally.
Yeah.
And then he started noticing it's in himself. And what's good about, here's where I think Dick Schwartz somehow tapped into the curiosity of self.
Yeah, right.
Because what curiosity really is neutrality. Neutrality means I don't assume I know what is happening with you. Like, I'm really just purely open. I'm neutral. I'm not hooked on you telling me what I want to know. Right? So even with our own parts, this neutrality of curiosity is kind of like this open space to receive. And somehow he tapped into that mode and got curious and just started asking people, like, can you ask this part? Why is it eating this way? Why is it hurting you? Or why is it cutting you? Or why is it? And the parts would just talk. They would say things to the client. I hear this voice telling me this. And there was some kickback because we just had an NPR interview that came out. I was on it and Dick was on it. And and Dick tells a story about, people telling him, like, you're hurting people and you're fragmenting them. You're almost like creating multiple personality disorder. And it's not true. It's like multiple personality disorders when people get so locked into their parts that it's almost as if they become that part, but it's still parts. And it's just a very natural way the mind works. And then over time, his clients taught him more and more. And I can relate because when I got the training, you have like the keys and you're like, well, how do I drive this car? And then your clients teach you what works, what doesn't work. They teach you like what's possible in somebody's system. And then when you do your own work, which Dick has also done, you get to know your own system, where some people see parts, some people hear parts, some people feel parts. Some people are like, for me, it's like a movie, like it's vivid. Other people, they see nothing.
How do you become aware of those parts?
Usually you start with the body sensation. Like when you say you're feeling worried or stressed or like, I got to get this thing done. Or like, if I don't succeed, like if this podcast doesn't sail, like when you first started, like imagine your first time you posted something, like what was happening in your body? Like, are they going to click? Are they going to click on it? Are they going to listen to it? Will anybody listen to it? Then you might feel like agitated. And then you feel that in your body. And if you could say, all right, let me get curious and kind of neutral about what's happening here. And then a lot of times we have to ask those feelings, can you give me just enough room so I could be here with you? Because the feelings are overlaying on you, almost like, like a stage light is a white light. And when they put a red film over it, it looks red. Or if they put a purple film, it looks purple, but it's really a white light. And you think you're purple, like you think you are the anxiety, like this is me. But when you ask the film to pull back, when you ask the part to give me a little space, the message is to the part, I don't want you to leave. I'm not kicking you out. Because some therapies do that, like put your critic in a glass jar and lock them away.
Yeah.
Like that's like not what we do. We say, okay, critic, can you give me enough space so I can listen to you? And tell me your fears and your concerns. Like the key question is, how are you trying to help me?
Right.
And the critic's like, I don't beat you down and you're going to say something stupid. And just like dad did, you're going to get beat down in real life. So I need to keep beating you down so you don't say those things. And you're like, oh, that's how you're trying to help me. And then a lot of times we'll ask, like, how old do you think I am? And they're like 6.
Wow. Wow.
And you're like, oh, you don't even know that I'm an adult now with my own skills and I've learned things. And so we often update these parts that like, and then I become like, and then they look at you like, oh, you could take care of me. I thought I had to take care of you.
Right.
Like, I didn't think you were capable in the world. So I have to take over. The worrier has to take over because they think self isn't capable.
Right.
Because they don't know self yet. Because when you were young, you couldn't embody that.
There's a really interesting quote from your book that I thought might help to just add some context and kind of help our community kind of, get into this conversation a little bit more. You say, like, when we blend with our parts, we've kind of discussed parts a little bit. We'll dive into that a little bit more, but this quote's really great. When we blend with our parts, right, we'll talk about what blending is. We experience the world through their perspective. It's like we are looking through different lenses that color, and even to start our vision when we unblend. We remove those lenses and we see the world more clearly. So when you close with a quote from the founder, okay, I'm going to close with a quote from the founder of IFS, Dr. Richard Schwartz. You mentioned him already. When you see through the eyes of parts, the world looks very different than when you see through the eyes of self. So Yeah, what's going on here? Like this, like the blending, unblending parts, like you mentioned, like managers and firefighters and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what blending means is, I'm sure everyone listening right now can think of a moment when they became the emotion they were.
Mm.
Like they were the worry. They were the anger, the rage.
I am anxious. I am
Right.
stressed,
I am,
defining themselves
exactly. So these parts, because it's almost like, if you pictured a movie of like you're inhabited by another being, like, and I don't want to scare people because it's not scary. It's just how our human experience is that these parts take over our ears, eyes, hearts, minds, and we're looking through their eyes. So you're looking through a scared 5-year-old.
Wow. Yeah.
So you would imagine, how would a scared 5-year-old who isn't getting the love and attention they need and is worried about, will I even be okay in this world? So when that part blends and it kind of takes over our perceptions, we experience it not just by their eyes and feel it from a 40-something, 50-something-year-old man's heart. We feel it from their heart.
Yeah.
Because like, I am the 5-year-old right now.
Wow.
So that's why it feels so intense, because a 5-year-old doesn't know how to manage their nervous system. They need the adult to be there to say, hey, come here, sit on my lap. Let me breathe with you like you guys did here. Tell me what's happening. Let me reflect back to you what I'm noticing. Use my nervous system to help regulate yourself. And self becomes this new version of that. So even doing it, even getting to know any part like that, like say you get to know some people, like they try this and they go right down the rabbit hole and they go to their deepest pain. I'm like, whoa, that's a little too much for like a beginner. Like you're like just picking up the violin. You're not going to try like Mozart here. Let's just try row your boat.
Yeah.
So it's like, let me just pick the part of me who just strives at work.
Okay.
Like I can't stop working. I'm working all the time. Like
Yeah.
okay, let's see how you can be in a relationship with that part. And the part starts telling you its story. And then you're like the first person to ever say, man, I get it. Like I get why you're working so hard, because you're telling me if you didn't work hard, we would feel bad. We feel worthless. And it's kind of giving you glimpses of maybe things that have happened in the past. You're like, yeah, man, I'm you. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, you're right. We would feel that. Thank you for helping me. And then the rest of the parts are kind of looking in like, dude, there's like this adult version in here who can give love and attention. Like I want some. And the other parts start coming forward. And eventually, over sometimes months or years, there's like so much trust in the system of this new entity, that when you say, hey guys, I'm here, like for me right now, unless something really crazy is happening, I would say maybe 80 to 90% of the time, I can say, hey, I'm here. And my parts all just take a step back. And they're like, well, if you're here, we know it's going to turn out okay. Just like a trusted parent who finally comes home when all the kids are, say the toaster is on fire and they finally get the fire out. And then the dad walks in the room and they love dad. Dad's somebody who they know, if he's here, everything's going to work. Self is like that person that walks into the space.
Wow.
You've mentioned self talking to the parts, self walking into the space, kind of being the savior, if you will. What does that process actually look like? If I'm wanting as myself to talk to, I'm one of those people that you just talked about. I work really hard, and I honestly, the self part of me doesn't know why that part works so hard.
Right.
But how would I ask that? And how would I get that answer? What does that actually look like?
Okay. So there's two ways I can do this. I can either explain it to you, or I can have you experience it. What would
Let's
you
do it?
You want to experience
Let's
it?
do it. Experience it. Why not?
Okay. So, take a moment. And I like to start with people. This is a Seth thing. Not every IFS person does this, but I like to say, like, a lot of times we're in our head thinking about our parts. And that's like, a lot of times that can cloud our neutrality, like our vision. So ask your attention if it could, or just let your attention drop more into your heart than in your head. Like almost as if you could sense your body or sense me from your heart more than your head for a moment. Does that feel accessible to you?
It does.
Okay. And now maybe think about work and how you have to keep going and going and going. And how does that energy show up in your body? Like that feeling of I have to, I need to.
I think it shows up as actually, it ironically shows up as excitement. I enjoy it.
Okay.
I feel it, like you said before, a sense of purpose. I feel that I am providing for my family, and I feel validated. My existence is validated.
Okay. And how does you feel that excitement is in your chest, is in your shoulders, all over?
In my chest.
Okay. So could you say, almost like saying hi to that feeling, like, hey, I feel you feeling.
You want me to actually say that out loud?
You could say it internally or most people talk inside, so we can, but if you want to do it out loud, it's up to you.
Well, for the sake of the show, I'll say it out loud.
Okay.
So what? I'm sorry. Remind me what.
So you might say like, "Hey, excitement in my chest." Like whoever you are, I'm just saying hi to you. Like I don't know you yet, but I'm just like, kind of greeting you.
Hey, excitement in my chest. Nice to meet you. I'd like to get to know you better. I don't know you, and I'd like to understand you.
Okay. And then when you do that, what happens in your chest?
Nothing.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
So ask that area, like, is there anything that wants you to know about why it goes and goes and goes and goes?
Okay.
So not what you know of it. Mm-hmm.
Excitement in my chest. What would you like to know about
what is
me?
What is it? No, ask it. Sorry.
No. Okay.
What do you want me to know about you?
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Excitement. What is it that you would like me to know about you?
And then just wait for something to emerge, almost like something in water that pops to the surface. Just let it come.
All right. I am. So from my excitement, what I felt was insecurity.
Okay. So I'm sensing maybe you might ask it like, do you have to? Is something about work helping you not feel insecure? Like being good at this, or you can ask.
Excitement in my chest is there something about work that makes you feel
like helping you in some way?
Is there something about work that is helping you in some way?
Helping me even.
Help. Oh, right. Of course. Excitement in my chest. Is there something about work that is helping with that insecurity in some way? Yeah, I'm feeling that. And this is something that Will and I have talked about on the show before, and we talk about men feeling this way regularly, and I'm sure there's plenty of women that feel this way as well. But the male role, the societal expectations of men, is that they should have a job and provide and move up, continually be striving for that next rung. So I feel that my excitement is telling me that if I ever feel that I'm settling or that I've arrived, then people are going to judge me.
If you stop somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does that make sense to you?
It does.
So sometimes the words I like to say to clients is, what if you take a minute and say to this part how it makes sense for you personally? Like, man, I've lived this. Like, let it. So you want the part to feel really heard and seen.
Okay.
And if at any point this is too much for you, just tell me to pause.
No, it's good. Okay. I'm starting to get a little emotional, but I'm enjoying it. I like this.
So let it know how you get it so it feels heard and seen. Like, give it some detail.
Okay. All right. So excitement in my chest. I hear you. I see you. I understand the societal pressures that are out there. I understand the typical expectations of men, um, that they are the provider, the protector, the conqueror, and they're continually having to strive for more in order to be um, worthy of admiration, of love, and I understand that. I can understand that feeling.
Okay, so really sit with this part and see how it takes that in to be seen.
The excitement, um, the excited part of me feels as though as it feels as though it has been validated just by being seen for that insecurity and that desire to be continually validated or admired, and that there's more to life than this, and
Okay.
it does feel like you mentioned before, as though there's an adult in the room, and this younger part of me is being seen and being recognized and being appreciated.
Okay. Do you want to ask it how old it is?
Excitement in my chest. How old are you?
And if it wants to show itself to you at that age, it can.
Yeah, what I'm envisioning is about a 7-year-old me. I moved to the States when I was 7. I had a South African accent, and I wanted to fit in, so I changed my accent, and then I wanted to be accepted. So I worked hard to excel in school, and then when I did excel, the grown-ups around me recognized that and praised me for it. So I continued to want to be praised.
Okay, perfect. So maybe one more thing here. Why don't you be with this 7-year-old for a moment? You can say or do, like even imagining, not seeing yourself sit there, but like using your own hands, looking through your own eyes. How do you want to be with this little guy the way he needed? What would you say?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can picture this almost perfectly, because I have I have 3 young kids. I have a 7-year-old little girl, a 5-year-old little boy, and a 3-year-old little girl. And the way that I want to show up as a parent is how I would want to show up for that 7-year-old inside me.
Can you do that for a moment, just for a second? You can tell us what you're doing if you want to.
Yeah. Okay. So.
And you can just call him the 7-year-old now, or whatever you want to call him. You don't have to call him the excitement anymore. You can even ask him, like, what do you want to be called?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I call my son little buddy.
Okay.
So
that feels natural.
Like Gilligan on Gilligan's Island.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Hey, little buddy. Yeah. Hey, little buddy. There's more to life than providing, protecting. There's more to life than being validated. There's more to life than striving for perfection. And I think that's definitely a piece that the 7-year-old inside of me feels is it's always striving for perfection and is always unhappy with less than perfection. But little buddy, nothing in this life is perfect. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you are going to be able to let go of some of this anxiety, some of this insecurity. Nothing in this life is perfect, and nobody else around you, no other piece on the external outside of me are perfect. So, and there's certainly no parts of me that are perfect. So, little buddy, I think you can let that go. You can let that
so
go.
what if we, to end for now, What if would you like to make a commitment to him that where he thinks it's his job to be the one working? That's a lot for a 7-year-old. What if you say, I'd like to work on you passing that responsibility to me? You might even let him know like how old you are and that you can actually be a kid. If you don't have to give it to me now because he might not be ready, but we can work on this together over time. Like you can visit with him and just basically pass the baton of this responsibility to the actual person who should be the worker.
Okay. Hey, little buddy, you're only 7, and I am 47, and you shouldn't feel the need to carry that burden of providing and protecting. That's something that I can do as the 47-year-old. I can recognize that society is putting that on us, and that there is no perfection, and there's no need to be insecure for being imperfect. It's part of the human condition, and we can continue to work on this together.
Great, wonderful. And so you could make, you might want to. I like to write things down. Like, okay, I'm going to check in with this part. Like, I put an alarm on my phone. Because if you can show up for him on a daily basis, like for me, it's like, when you knock on your kid's door, they're in their room. You're like, how you doing? They're like, I'm fine, Dad. Yeah. You're like, great. That's all they needed.
Yeah.
But they know like you're walking towards me on a daily basis. I know I have a dad who cares. And self can do that too. Like, hey, how you doing, little buddy? Thumbs up. Cool. Remember, I can work today. If you don't want to work, you can play with some toys while I do this work. And then sometimes they'll say, I'm really scared. Like, I feel like I have to work hard. Or like you might be working and you'll feel that excitement energy. Like now you know that energy. You could go, hey, is that you, little buddy? Are you taking me over right now? Oh, remember I said if you want to, you can give me a little space, just enough that I'm here too. So now there's both of us here. Like I'm not kicking you out. Like you can even help me push buttons on the console. But let me be the one here so I can be here for you. And you'll feel like that. You feel that energy, like you had wisdom to share with him. You had courage, you had confidence. So those qualities naturally just arose in you the minute he gave you enough space to let you be here.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. I will be honest. I didn't think that when you first asked me, what do you feel in your heart? I'm like, nothing. I was like, this is not going to work.
Right. So that's when I had to turn up my P dial of persistence. I had to be like, okay, let me crank this up a little bit. Because
that was really powerful.
Because I could have had a part that got, holy shit, I'm scared now. Like, and then everything would have fallen apart because my self energy would get clouded.
Oh,
and
sure.
So your system relies on my self energy until you have enough of your own. And if I get scared, I'd be like, hey, man, do it. John, do it. You're going to make me look bad on the air, man. Like, you're making me look bad now. So our parts are about us. They want to protect us. And self is like, I'm here, but I could feel like, there was a moment there where, like, I felt weepy. Like, I was like, man, I'm holding John's system right now. This is beautiful. And look what he's doing with this little guy.
Oh, wow.
Like, so I feel it through my whole body. Like there's like a vibrating energy of like love for humanity and for you in this part,
Well, thank you for that. That was, that was awesome.
Thank you for being so vulnerable, John, and really going there and
it's beautiful.
Interesting, you've talked about your 7-year-old self coming to the United States a few times on the show, and here it is. It's like it's a real thing inside of you, and just say, I don't know if you know Dr. Seth,
I feel
but like this guy is like a 17-year Navy SEAL. I mean, talk about the levels of accomplishment that this man has attained, and it could be, and I think obviously that part is very driven, for you and helped you to kind of drive things forward. And another thing that I'm seeing here, it's like, and it comes up when, instead of like, shelving that part, right, or that maybe you can see as like the negative part of yourself and be like, no, like I need to only focus on like my positive things that I want to bring into my life. It brings up that, bring your friends close and your enemies closer, right? And it's not necessarily make that friend an enemy. So you really be creating an ally in this system. And then I didn't realize this as well. It's like, so it's, I've only thought of internal family systems as just like your internal system, but it's the unification of your system and his system in order to kind of create this foundation and this confidence and this, and in order to bring forth, right, something that is so buried deep inside of us because it needs that, that manager, needs that protector. It's like, the firefighter is another word that you kind of use in this internal family system. And it's just amazing the levels of protection that and the and all these things that just like this fog that sits over top of this self and this brilliance that's waiting to come out. And look, I mean, John, you're getting emotional, and it's but now you have, I mean, it sounds like you have, even just in this little bubble we're creating here during the show, like you have a little more wisdom that you can even take forward with you, and maybe I don't know what does that look like. So, Dr. Seth, like you kind of do this work, and then how does this play out in life over time? I mean, I realize it is a system that does take time and patience and persistence in order to, discover these parts and communicate with them and then move them forward. So what does it look like in the real, or like when you kind of get out of, like, so the John, he discovers his 7-year-old self, his little buddy, right? How does he take that little buddy with him? So he's no longer this like lesser energy and diminishes the light and puts the clouds over the self, but actually helps to illuminate and push those clouds away.
Yeah. Well, first, let me just say, in IFS, we don't think of these parts as bad in any way.
That's just
or
me
negative.
In my like knuckle dragging mind. Okay.
I know, but I just wanted the listeners to hear, and I don't think you thought that, but it's really easy to think that I just need to get these parts out of the way so I can shine. But what we're asking is, there's parts that are trying to help, but they're so young and they're so focused on saving me that there's all these unintended consequences in my life when they lead. So, and I want to say this before I answer your question, like, even people before they found out you were a Navy SEAL, let anyone question how much of a man that was to be with your parts that way. Like, what kind of warrior does it take to do that? To me, it's a weakness of a male to push it all the way and to be that strong rock. It's kind of like when the hurricane comes, the trees break, the grass flows and is soft. And when the hurricane's gone, the grass stands back up again. The trees are gone. Right. So this beautiful vulnerability that you just showed, to me, is what a man is.
Well, thank you both for the space and walking me through that, Dr. Seth. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. So moving forward, it's similar to what I said earlier, but like you start to realize I have this whole team inside of me.
That's right. Team. It's a great word.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
And another way is like orchestra. Like I'm the conductor and there's all these players. So some people are out of tune. Some people are like running rogue. Some people are like, sending really bad emails, so I have to be like, as the CEO in my system, like, how do I like support and use like what quality leadership, like my PhD is in leadership. So it's like, how do we like sense the needs of our team and help inspire them to want to be their best and to be the one, because leadership is, you can't be a leader without a follower. Managers push people. Leaders walk out ahead and people follow them. So what we're doing for our system is we're saying, I'm going to keep showing up for you. And I guess I'm being a little bit too, it's not really concrete enough. So I'll say like, tomorrow, John shows up to work and it's like 6:00, his day is done, but this excitement comes over him, goes, man, I should push through and like work to 8. I'm going to call my family and let them know I'm going to be late. And in that moment, he might get curious and go, hey, wait, what's happening here? And he might say, hey, little buddy, is that you?
Right, there you go. Right.
And they might say, and I usually in a moment will say, what's your concern or your fear if I left now?
Wow.
Because he's the one pushing him to stay. And he might say, if we leave now, we're not going to get that one thing done and people are going to think we're not good enough. Wow. They're going to think we're like, separate, or I'm not going to fit in. to this group of, when I was 7, like, and one thing we didn't do, John, and I don't want to necessarily do now because that's a deeper work, is that we call these other parts exiles who actually hold the pain of the pain you probably had leaving your home, coming to this new place. So this part's like protecting you so you don't have to feel that pain of being another. And so then later we might ask this little guy, what if we can go to the part who carries the deeper pain of being othered? Or I don't want to speak for your system. I'm just guessing.
No.
And then if we could heal that part, how would it be for you, little guy? Would you have to work so hard for me if we could heal that?
Wow.
So the deeper work is then we go to that part and we have to really witness the pain and then help that part get retrieved, like take it out of those situations where it probably still feels othered, where it still feels alone. So that's like a deeper work you can do with a therapist or yourself, but it's typically it's helpful to do with a therapist.
When it does feel alone like that. It seems like it's going to keep coming up and trying to sabotage, or it's going to keep coming up and trying to get your attention in some ways and if you're not skillful enough and haven't like kind of done this training, you just kind of fall into those pitfalls again, or those, and just keep dropping in. And it's just like, why do I keep showing up and keep, producing the same results or thinking the same way or acting, behaving the same way, right? But really going in there and really analyzing and looking and it's also, what I also enjoyed about what you're doing, Dr. Seth, is like sitting with patience, sitting with compassion. The courage that you said, just like, and John, the courage as well, to just get in there, go in there, the vulnerability. And it's like, and it just sounds so beautifully, wonderfully loving, holistic, the whole system, in order to kind of hold, right, this self that's inside waiting to come out. But it's what really remarkable.
Yeah. When I can hold that space, I'm never tired at the end of a day.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet.
My physical body might be a little tired, but I don't feel like, man, I worked that long day. But the days where it's more cognitive and my mind is trying to help people, like I'm exhausted.
Yeah, right.
So it is like a beautiful mutual thing. And, some people, if you want to ever get an IFS therapist, you should sense like their energy. Some people do it from a very kind of a clinical
like, mental state.
Let's do these parts. I'm definitely like a lover of love. It was before IFS. So for me, it's all about the love,
about the heart,
so like it's like, wow, I picked a job where I can finally like, kind of stoke the fire of love in people's systems and like almost like let your parts feel what it feels like to be loved, like to be held in this love. So they even go, shit, that's possible. Like if I can't feel it in myself, maybe I feel it with Seth for a moment here. And I can say to your parts, what if you could have that inside too?
Yeah.
Like the way I'm holding you, what if I hold you while you hold your parts?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how I think this, like, if you're spiritual, I believe, like, what if we are actually, we're self, but what if self is literally a part of this larger self, God? And really we can actually lean into this larger thing and be held, not judged.
Right.
And if we could be held, then how can we hold our own parts if we feel being held by this larger? So if you can't feel it spiritually, what if there's another person who could also be like that?
Excellent.
Yeah, it's beautiful work. You mentioned like managers, firefighters, and people are like, what is that? So we have these protectors, and then we have the exiles are the ones that hold the deep pain that we haven't gone to yet here, where this little buddy was a manager. We call it manager because they're trying to manage our life and be proactive. Like if I work hard, I won't feel pain. Mm-hmm. So all these parts that worry, stress, or make you look good, make you look great, make sure you cross all your T's and dot your I's. Those are proactively trying to help you. But the minute there's a reactive feeling, like say, like you guys said, Seth, you kind of suck. and I had like this flood of feelings. Like my head, like, oh shit, I'm horrible. Then my firefighter would come in and I have this cloak. It's like it looks like a cloak. It just covers me and I go numb. You wouldn't even know I was in pain because it just makes me.
Yeah, you just go right out. Well, you say here that, the protector parts are reactive and proactive. The proactive ones are called managers, and they try to manage our lives to avoid future pain. They control our appearance, our work style, and how we show up in the world. They also worry, overthink, and they can make us seem controlling or overly passive to people around us. They think that they have to protect us from feeling that those exile feelings. Our managers don't often know that there is a self inside of us that can handle these things. They learn when we were young that we're often powerless to make bad things stop. Like, it is like, wow.
Right. Yeah, like when you're a kid, you can't move out. I go, yeah, this family sucks. I'm going to get a new family.
You tease the
Like,
idea,
you
and you're
can't
like, fuck, where am I going to go? What money do I have?
I've had my kids tell me that multiple times.
Like,
okay, bye.
Like I ran away once, and then it started getting dark, and I'm like, what am I going to do? So I just came home.
Exactly. I've been there.
Right. So our parts learn, like, and we can't embody this power yet. Right. For one, like, if I embody this courage, what's a little boy, 5-year-old, going to do with that?
Not much.
Because you're physically can be manipulated
very easily.
Mm-hmm.
Also, our brains aren't fully developed enough to have something called metacognition, where you could think about what you're thinking about.
Right.
So, like, as we get older, the self-energy is more accessible to go, wait, I'm feeling something that's not me. A 5-year-old's brain isn't capable. I'm just like, it is like I'm blended. I am this pain right now. And a baby is even the most. Like, the minute you're born, you're a sensory being, and you only feel things. You don't think about what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why trust is developed in that moment of an infant. Like, are my needs met, or are they not? Do I feel safe in my body? Like this, So the firefighters, you're probably going to go next in the book.
I mean, you want me to? Yeah. So these are the exile parts. So we talked about the protectors are either reactive or proactive, right? And our exiles are triggered. The reactive protector becomes a firefighter. They soothe us with activities such as drinking, smoking, sex, shopping, watching shows, or scrolling on your phone. They also numb us out and make us feel foggy and scattered. Sometimes firefighters get activated when our managers have worked too hard and they need to create balance in our systems. Go at work, John, right? And then drink when watching shows at night. So, yeah. Sorry.
Right. So, like I was saying, like, if we start feeling like worthlessness or shame, or even just like a hint of like somebody thinks I'm not good enough, the reactive, whatever you notice, how I react? Somebody might walk away. Somebody might get rageful. Somebody might pick up their phone. Like, I have this thing, like, my right arm seems to be a firefighter, because if something bad is happening, my manager is saying, don't pick up your phone. It's a waste of time. And my firefighter's like, I don't care. Bye.
Yeah.
And they pick up my phone and I don't feel anything. It almost takes away any, like, I think I'm realizing now, like, this happened this morning. I had one little worry part come in and start a little taking over my mind about something that's happening in my life. And immediately I picked up my phone and, like, it went away. So that firefighter is like trying to say, I don't want that.
It's do something else.
And then if I can go,
I don't want that. Do something else. Right. Manipulate you.
Yeah. And well, I know my firefighter knows if it picks up the phone, I go, no.
Yeah. You put out the fire.
You mean picking up the phone, like scrolling
social
social media?
Yeah. I just started looking at Facebook, and then like those reels, especially when the reels start, which is like TikTok basically inside of Facebook. That's when my whole system, like my brain goes offline. And there's no worry.
Right. Well, the fire's out. Like a firefighter puts out fires, right? Is this correct? Right.
Puts out the fire.
So what? Anybody out there listening? So what do you use to put out your fire? Or the sex, the drugs, the scrolling? You know what I mean? Like the excessive working out or some shit.
And to some people, it's very extreme.
Yeah, of course.
And sad to say, when people actually end their life, that is the ultimate firefighter. It's trying to help you not feel pain. And believe it or not, I don't do, as a practitioner, not a therapist, I don't work with those parts so much, but the people that do will talk to those firefighters and let them know, like, hey, can you give us more time? and to heal the pain here.
Frank Anderson talked about that piece with the suicidal individuals. They, a lot of people are like, hey, let's stop thinking that way. You shouldn't be thinking that. And then Frank said, okay, rather than doing that, why don't you ask that part? What is it that is making you want to end your life? So that, like you said, that's the ultimate firefighter wanting to come in there and react to the pain, put out that fire, and put out that fire permanently. So maybe asking the question might be,
how are you trying to help me?
More helpful.
Right.
Yeah. How are you trying to help me?
And the question is, if you didn't do your job, what would I feel? That's when it really shines a light on the exile.
That next level deeper.
Like if you didn't help me, what would I feel? You would be the most worthless person on the planet. You're unlovable. Right. Well, no wonder why you think you need to take me out. Mm-hmm. But what if there's another way to get rid of that pain? Like what if like a therapist could say, what if you give me some time to work with the parts carrying that pain? If we can get that pain out of your system, would you still need to soothe by killing yourself? And the parts are like, no, I wouldn't, but I don't believe you that we can do it. Like, okay, could you give us a chance?
Or I don't have enough time. I don't want to feel the pain during that time. Yeah.
But people have been healed that way, that they're, you clear the pain out. Then like, no, well, now you were going to soothe me through that. Would you like to change your job? Like, what would you like to do instead of killing me? Or what would you like to do instead of scrolling on my phone? What would you like to do instead of numbing me out? I might want to go have fun. Like there's good firefighter stuff. Like when I feel stressed, I'm going to go for a run. When I feel stressed, I'm going to write a song. When I feel stressed, I'm going to, get out my art supplies. When I feel stressed, I'm going to dance. Like there's really, so we could, we have like burdened parts that do things that kind of have negative impacts in our life. And then when we heal them, they become unburdened parts where they, like, if they're the orchestra and I'm the conductor, we can't just be self. Because if the conductor comes out, you paid like $150 to go to a symphony, and the conductor comes out and he starts waving his arms and there's no musicians, we're going to leave.
Yeah, or all the instruments out of tune. It's like, what the fuck am I making here?
Right.
It's like,
Right. So it's the parts that make our life interesting.
Right.
So when they're all in tune, there's this beautiful music.
Wow, exactly.
So we're helping like that little boy and you, John. You could be like, hey, man, what do you want to do now? And he might say, I want to play. And then you might even say, can I even feel your playful energy when you do that? Mm. And then you might end up having this beautiful afternoon with your kids rolling around on the grass with that little boy's energy. And they're like, Dad, this is the funnest day ever. Because you're able.
We did that on Friday night.
Yeah.
We had our own little, my wife and my oldest daughter went to an Above and Beyond concert.
Shit.
And if you guys are not familiar, at Red Rocks in Denver. It's
okay.
Pretty awesome. So then my two younger kids are here and they're like, well, we want to have a concert. So I got them some glow sticks and we turned out all the lights and we played some Above and Beyond on the speakers and we had our own little rave.
That's so awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was so fun.
So that's creativity of self right there.
Wow.
Man.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Very I definitely felt it.
Very good.
So, I'll send you some videos later. It was amazing.
We're gonna
right, and it made connection.
Yeah, my God.
Sorry, Bill.
Big
time. You never forget.
Yeah.
I mean, all of you, right? And it's like we're accessing in those moments, right? We're accessing that self energy collectively in a community. So you're vibing. You and your kids, John. With like each other, and it's like, how do you ever forget that? Because that, when you're in that self, you're free.
I want to add one thing about parenting is one of my specialties. And because I was a preschool teacher, I used to teach people how to teach kids. Like I devoted my life to parenting because I never got it, right? And
that's what Frank said. He goes, "You're not a trauma therapist if you haven't experienced trauma." Anyway,
my dad was a physician. He go, "You got to be a little crazy to be a psychiatrist."
There you go. Exactly. Yeah.
But we realized, like as a parent, everybody gets these parenting parts, these managers who are so well intended. Like it's my job to help these kids become who they're supposed to become. So we constantly are like looking at what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, helping them do it kind of different. Like, oh, instead of that, you should be doing this. Oh, when you're at the table, you should do this instead. And if you actually take a step back, these are manager parts trying to help your kids be okay. But when your kids experience these manager parts, what it really is like kind of like shaming. Like you're not good enough as yourself. You have to become this other thing, which oftentimes unconsciously leads to you feeling like I'm not actually lovable enough unless I do those things that my parents want me to do.
Whoa.
But if you can fall into self and be open and curious and go, man, you are so lovable, and teach me how you're about to eat this chicken because I've never seen that before. And I'm just going to be open and curious. And it's like, it ends up being fine. They don't destroy the tablecloth. They don't mess everything up.
And if they do, it really doesn't matter.
Right. And then because now I want to say one thing about I mentioned the book, really the whole book is about, because it's about interacting with others and yourself, that parts inspire parts in others. So if I'm talking to you from a part, you're going to get a part back. So when we're managing our kids, micromanaging, shaming, that's when we get the eyes rolling, the pleasing, the numbing out, looking at their phone. So when you come to them with self, then their protectors can soften, and then their self emerges. And then what all your parts want is to have a loving child who's pro-social and gets good grades, and all that happens naturally because when they're self-led, they succeed in life. So by allowing your children to be them and to like hold off on all the little criticisms and all the little shaping that you need to do, you're actually saying you're lovable as is. And then of course you supply limits when needed, like,
sure,
but you can do that from self. Would say, I can tell you really want to eat a popsicle at 11 o'clock at night. I'm sorry, this is not a choice. Instead of like, what the hell are you thinking? Like, why are you thinking you could eat a popsicle?
Yeah, exactly. How stupid
are
you?
That says you're bad at you're bad at your core.
Shame.
For wanting a popsicle. So then they're getting therapy and they're telling you, remember that popsicle thing, Dad? Like you totally created exile.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's how the exiles are created, in response of how we parent.
Right. And how we're also parenting from those parts, right? We're parenting from our parts instead of parenting from
parts.
Wow.
So when I asked my parts, why are you micromanaging these kids? They told me, because I'm like this parent educator. I'm like this self guy. And if my kids go out in the world and they're acting stupid, you're going to look like a fraud and you're going to be a failure.
Yeah.
So I was helping them for me, not for them. Oh my
God. Right. There you go.
Oh, wow.
Right. Wow.
Right. Why did I get mad at them at the grocery store? The part tells me because if they act out in a grocery store, I look bad. I look like the divorced dad who can't handle kids.
All right.
Right. So it's like, and then once I realize that, I can feel it when I feel the anger come up. I'm like, oh, you're worried about me looking bad. I'll look at my part and go, bro, I'm a parent educator. It's going to be fine. And that part relaxes. And I'm just like, hey guys, all the stuff here, they want you to buy it. We're just not going to touch it right now. Like, let's go. Instead of stop touching all the stuff in the aisle. Stop.
You're such a bad
making
kid.
A scene. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So what you asked earlier, how do we do this in real life? When we get to know our parts, we feel the energy of them in our body, and we pause. Like, oh, there's that anger. Oh, you want me to look good. Let me handle that. I'll make us look good. Watch this. Like you say this really cool parenting thing, like, hey guys, I can tell you really want that candy. Sorry, it's not a choice right now, but let's go home and we'll, blah, blah, blah. And then the cashier looks at you like, damn, you're still her dad. It's like, hey, part. Then you look at your part and go, how do I do? And he's like, hey, yeah, right on. Or the part that wants the kids just to be quiet and go to bed because my nervous system is frying. And that part wants to yell at the kids.
So that part is there.
So I say to the kids, why don't you help me? Let me put the kids to bed. Watch this. And I bring in my soothing, loving energy, and they drift off to sleep. And I look at that part. It's like, did I hook you up, man? Yeah. Did I hook you up or not? Right. So I have this relationship with these parts. Like, give me space and I will do what you need. Yeah. Like, I'll get them to sleep, but I'm not going to crush their little spirits in the process. Like you might.
Wow. No, it's amazing. And it's, you bring up something good. We're going to close in a little bit, but one thing I wanted to ask you, but you kind of like said it right there, because, our audience or community that typically is our core community, if you will, I mean, knows that, like, you know, when you do the work of mindfulness, when you drop into do meditation, you do the breath work, you know, you're able to get to a greater state of calm, so you can actually come online and feel that energy of those parts. You can feel the emotional rise. And if because this is like, basically, it sounds like this is where IFS really begins to start. Like, you got to get to calm, because without getting to calm, you can't objectify, you know, and disarm the parts, right? And then you can really, with the self, right, begin to turn towards compassion, right, and just really ask with curiosity, right, of what they really need. You know what I mean? Like, what's going on here? And that's why it's so essential, and why you know, that's why we have meditation courses going on. We're going to have a couple more in the coming year, so we can really get into that and not be overcome by those parts and the energy of the parts and all that, like, micromanaging and demanding that it brings to us.
That's right.
I mean, it's like wow.
So right.
Yeah, and it really works.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's how I see it, at least.
You know, ever since, like, I've you know, when Frank came on the show and I began to understand the self, and then just kind of diving into the self, and then being a teacher of this work, realizing, like, whoa, if this is our essence, then it's like, shit, like, you know, this is what this is already built in. So what does it mean to be calm? What does it mean to be curious? Like, what does it mean to be you know, to get connected and confident and courage? And it's all there. I mean, and I'm able to speak to it, you know, because it's just part of this internal wisdom, you know?
Right. It's so great, man. And another thing that self energy has is wisdom.
Right.
So, like, when we get into that space, you know, some people are really getting into touch with their ancestors, or getting in touch with God, or however you want to say it. And what I notice is, when I drop into self, you just know what to do. You know, like, you have, like, the ages of wisdom with you, like, because it's in your soul, right? Like, I am the product of thousands of years of people learning things. So when we're in self, not only do we have calm, I think calmness is like a byproduct of our parts, giving us enough space that then when we're here, self is exactly what you said, just naturally calm.
Yeah.
But it's not calm like, it's not just, oh, I'm so still, which is a beautiful space. But it's also like, what if I can take that calmness and be full bore activity? I'm assuming as a Navy SEAL, you had to be full activity, but your insides had to be calm, because if your insides were freaking out, you wouldn't be able to make decisions in that moment.
Right.
Right.
I'd love to say that I was calm all the time, but I certainly was not.
But I'm guessing when you were, things worked out a hair better.
Oh, yeah. Much better.
So when we're in that space, even when we're like, even think of like an athlete like Stephen Curry right now, how does he hit those 3-pointers again and again? If he had parts that were spinning, I guarantee you it wouldn't be as easy for him. Yeah. So there must be a way that he holds some self-energy, probably his confidence and courage.
I guarantee that motherfucker meditates. Guaranteed it does.
Oh, yeah.
Guaranteed. Awesome, Dr. Seth. This has been a lot of fun. We're just going to close with one breath, John, and then we're out. Is that cool?
Yeah, do it.
Well, I just want to say before we leave, I have parts who seriously don't want this to happen. They're just like, no.
Same.
They're like, no. We like these guys. No, this is another hour.
Because
another
we're fucking
hour.
playful. We're playful. You know, doing all this. I know it.
They're like, does this mean that we're going to be friends? Like, when they call us and we can hang out?
I'm going to do a little pitch here, Dr. Seth. We're going to actually have in the future, in coming 2025, and you even talked in the green room talking about, oh my God, finally get some bro time. Well, all the men out there, you can get some bro time. We're going to have our first men's only event. It's going to be online. We're calling it our social fitness club. We rise together is our little tagline. Go to mentalkingmindfulness.com to check that out. That's going to be starting in January. We're just working on when exactly that's going to take place. But you know, Seth, we'd love for you to be part of that. I mean, yeah, bro, out and connect with us. And we're just going to do one breath, everybody, to close and to seal us off, and maybe just to kind of quiet down the parts a little bit on the inside. So let's just take a nice little exhale all the way out, drop bottom, or hit the bottom, right? And let's take a nice big inhale in. A little bit more. Hold for 3 and 2 and 1 and let it go. Fantastic, everybody. We really appreciate you dropping in. Dr. Seth, thank you. Thank you for taking the time. John, thank you for being so vulnerable and getting to know your little buddy on the inside, man.
Thanks for, again.
Seriously.
It was awesome. It was so beautiful.
Thanks, guys, for holding the space.
Yeah.
And real quick, Seth, if our audience or community wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to find you?
Probably just my full name.com. So SETHKOPALD.com, Seth Kolpal. It's got my email.
Boom.
And also I'll be doing workshops, trainings. There's all kinds of free videos. If people want to know about parenting, I have a whole parenting page with free videos. There's all kinds of, I love free content because I just want to give this away. So,
well, thank you for what you gave away to us today, to me today. I very much appreciate it. We appreciate it. And I'm sure our audience does too. And for our audience, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sharing our show. Will, I'll turn it over to you to wrap it up.
Hey, join the Social Fitness Club, mentalkingmindfulness.com, and everything else we're doing. Leave us a review. It would be fantastic. Hit up Dr. Seth. Pick up Self-Led. There's a lot of gifts in there that we've obviously explored today, and there's more in there that have yet to be discovered by you. So thank you. And peace, everybody. Have a great, fantastic everything. Peace. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Peace. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you walk away with some new tools and insights to guide you on your life journey. New episodes are being published every week, so please join us again for some meaningful discussion. For more information, please check out mentalkingmindfulness.com.